What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 5, season 2 of Pitchin Tents. I am Ray, alongside my co-host, the ever handsome Short King.
What's up, guys? I'm Davis West.
That's Davis West, and we have a special treat for you today. I know last week you talked to Brian Bolt from the ARA. Today we have Matt Smith, one of the key players at MATRA and owner, operator of special events there in Virginia, next to our good friend Warren Darby. Welcome to the show, Matt Smith.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. So
we're glad you're here, man.
It.
Yeah, like everybody knows who Matt Smith is in the industry, and especially at MATRA, man. You've had a huge hand in the education and everything that we're going to dive into deeper on that. But in terms of, pushing the industry towards our goals, I think you're one of the key players that's pushing that change.
Well, my first intro to him, I was at my first MATRA, and he was like Michael Phelps. Every single event there was to win an award. I'm like, dude, we get it. Like, you're good at stuff.
Yeah, and of course Matt wins.
Get over yourself,
hammer and all that stuff at MATRA, brings a freaking team of studs.
We loaded the deck for that one.
Yeah.
It was an honor to win the team cup and everything.
Do y'all practice that stuff? Or is it just y'all are good at it because y'all do it every day?
We practice daily.
Yeah, exactly. You do it every day.
And you guys were like average Joes of the Bad News Bears. That team from, I think it was Losberger. They were like the purple Cobras from Dodgeball. They were all chiseled with blonde. They looked like young Dolph Lundgrens. And I don't know, somehow Matt was able to do it for the everyman. So shout out to Matt Smith.
Good, yeah.
Well,
don't mistake the dad bod.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, look,
it's not a dad bod; it's a father figure.
There you go. I still have some gas in the tank.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Matt, we're going to jump right into it. Who is Matt Smith? How did Matt Smith get into this line of work? What's your journey look like to get where you are, man? I mean, there's a lot of kids out there these days, and with the ever-changing industry of this is a profession that you can make a career out of. How does one get to where you got?
Stubborn tenacity.
A glutton for punishment.
My story is I came here I came to special events when I was 19, and I didn't even fill out an application. It was kind of a summer job when I was going to ODU, and I never left.
Yeah.
So I was kind of sort of officially hired in April of 2003. But it was kind of on a call out basis.
Yeah.
And this is way back when we were still in the bouncy business. So I would help on the inflatable side. And one day they were short on the tent crew, and I got to go out, and oddly enough, and I'm not just plugging TopTec, we pull up on a job site, and there's this huge 60 by 90 epic single pole tent. And I said, what are we doing here? And my friend who brought me to work, he's like, we're going to take this down.
And you're like, oh boy.
Oh, that started it off right there. It was, big, huge tent, the work, it kind of just drew me in.
Yeah.
So, I continued on like that for maybe 2 years, just obscurity, kind of helping out. And then Mike Fitzwater took me to MATRA. And that's kind of where like the wheels started turning for me. And I kind of got serious about the work here. Granted, I was 21 years old. Yeah. I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. But going to that MATRA and kind of seeing what was out there kind of sealed the deal for me. Something that has always kind of kept me in this is that there's always evolutions.
Yeah.
Things are always changing. You get instant satisfaction out of, what you're doing every single day. So for a person that likes to be hands-on, this is kind of the perfect work where you got to stay busy. You get through it. It hasn't been all roses either.
Yeah.
It's like there are times where, things just suck and they're awful. But you kind of keep your head up, keep your eye on the prize, and just keep motoring through.
Right. And it's like you said, I mean, like, it's instant gratification when you get to a job site and you leave there and it's decked out for somebody's special day or a huge festival or event. It's just like, man, we pulled this off. It's instant gratification. And, you know, you mentioned Mike, and that was a huge loss for our industry. And I know it was a huge loss for y'all. He was a titan in our industry. And I'm sure that as your mentor, there's not really a better mentor out there that you were able to cut your teeth with.
No, and you know, I told this story about Mike, but Mike did not like me at first.
Yeah.
And the reason was I wasn't very polished.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really care what anybody thought about me. I came in, I was going to work harder than anybody else. I was going to learn more than anybody else, but I was going to act however I wanted.
Right.
And that didn't really settle well with Mike. So I was lucky to have him because he had a little bit of that live and let live in him.
Yeah. But
once he saw me start to clean it up and take it serious, that's when he started to really put the time and effort into. I mean, he taught me so much over the years. You know, I wouldn't be involved with MATRA. I wouldn't be involved with any of the, you know, ARA, stuff like that, had it not been for him and guided me through it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you and Matt are two of the few people, me as an outsider, I know Davis doesn't come from a family lineage in tents, and it sounds like nor do you, Matt. And both of you guys have basically risen from you were a part-time seasonal employee when you were in college, right?
Well, high school, like 17, that was my summer job.
Another podcast, I think child labor is something we don't utilize enough in the U.S. So with the labor shortage, you know, maybe that's something we could talk about in a future show. But no, Matt, in all sincerity, there's so many multi-generational ownership change in this industry. It's really neat to talk to two people who, you know, at 17, 18 years old, when most people are, you know, saving up for Natty Light and a trip to the dive bar. And you're 32, right, Davis?
Yep.
32?
Yep.
Matt?
I'm 42.
42. Okay, we're close in age. But I mean, what I'm saying is both of you guys are, you know, relatively young to have the voice and the stature in the industry that you do. And it's not an old industry either. You know, I saw a lot of people at MATRA and ARA who were movers and shakers, you know, anywhere from 35 to 45.
Well, that's what we're seeing. And Matt, you can talk to this. That's what we're seeing change now is the old timers that have been in this industry forever are now passing it down to the younger generation or being bought out by a younger generation. I mean, I think of somebody like John over at PPR, right up the road from us. I mean, he's a young kid, eager, and they're growing, crazy growing, you know. And it's taking these younger generations that are coming into it now with bigger, better, grander ideas, and the ones that have the no nonsense attitude, we're going to figure out a way to get it done that's going to push our industry to keep growing in the trend that it's going right now. Wouldn't you agree with that, Matt?
I would absolutely, you know, it's like planting seeds.
Yep.
And, you know, I got to hats off to all the guys, the big names that everybody knows that started MATRA and started these organizations. But, you know, they really did a good job of getting that ball rolling and really, you know, growing roots. And it's something that they were able to hand off that is now it's scalable. So, you know, and the same thing with special events, you know, this company is designed to be scalable, and you get out of all of this what you put into it.
Right.
Super quick. So, just you mentioned MATRA, and when we talked to Brian Bolt, he gave us the skinny on, and I see it's funny, you've got the MATRA badge and the ARA bag behind you. Once again, reminding us how familial this industry is. If there's a young company out there that's on the fence, and for transparency, Davis is on the board of MATRA. I know that you're heavily involved.
He's on the board as well. Matt.
If somebody's on the fence about whether or not to join one of those business organizations, those fraternal groups, what would you say to a 27-year-old Matt Smith in the game? Like, is this worth the money? Is it worth the time? I'm not sure that I'm going to get where I want to be. Can you make your pitch for MATRA for people who might be on the fence?
I I think that you have to make that investment because you tend to get siloed, and basically, you need that perspective in order to grow. You need to, and it's not just the structured education where the value is. The value is in the networking and talking to like-minded people. If you're in a city, if you're a young guy in a city, you can't go to your neighbor and ask them what's the secret to their sauce, right? But I might be able to go to somebody from New Jersey or New York or wherever, and they're more willing to talk to me and give me some of their secrets that I can bring home. So, not direct competition, somebody you could talk to and level with. What I find a lot of times is that I don't think any of our problems are unique.
No.
So having somebody, maybe if your problem might be new to you, but it's not unique to the industry.
Right.
So getting involved and talking to those people, there's answers out there. And meeting them and finding those answers is all part of joining these associations.
Well, the relationships that I've created at MATRA haven't just strictly been from, going to the educational seminars or the cocktail hours that we put on. It's, a 10 o'clock at night parking lot tailgate beer with 15 people hanging around the truck and exchanging ideas and pain points and how they got through those pain points. And like you said, those pain points aren't just strictly to each individual person. This is a time where you can go and you can pick somebody's brain and say, hey, have you encountered this problem? And if so, how did you handle it? And 90% of the time in our industry, it's very few times that you don't have somebody that's willing to sit there and talk it through with you and tell you, this is how you could handle it because this is how we've handled it, and this is what we did poorly that you can improve on.
That's exactly it. I mean, you get just a little nugget out of it that maybe smooths something out for you or gives you a new idea, and that's the value.
Does it make it easier knowing that other people have gone through the same pitfalls? And
100%.
I can speak from my personal experience, is that as long as I know somebody else has gone through it, all of a sudden it's less traumatic.
Correct.
For me in my line of work.
It doesn't feel as big of an issue because it's manageable. It's been manageable.
We had that great conversation with Brian Richardson about the generational employee development and pitfalls of the industry. And one last thing on MATRA, Matt, just because you're the one who mentioned it, you said that Mike Fitzwater was the gentleman's name. May he rest in peace. The way you guys are speaking, yes. I'm going to assume that's. If you weren't, you said you weren't polished, along with that mentorship with a Mike Fitzwater, would you say that MATRA kind of helped turn you a little bit more into a businessman as opposed to just a hardworking guy on the ground with a sledgehammer and a hard hat?
It did, and being around that caliber of people, especially with the board, it brings you up. It makes you want to. You kind of naturally just want to be better around people like that. And a lot of thanks to, people like Liz Davis and Melanie Padikian and all of them who are more on the polished side. And you kind of look at them as an example of, how you should act, how you should talk, how you should, things like that. I can't drop an F-bomb in every sentence that comes out of my mouth. And, they definitely.
Just one quick question, and this is, I was trying to build to this question. Obviously, it was neat to see the reverence you had in your eyes when you were talking about Mike Fitzwater. Do you currently have the opportunity to be a Mike Fitzwater for anybody, either in your company or in the industry right now? And what has that meant to you, actually, that spirit of rotation, passing the torch, being able to go from being the guy who's being mentored? Like, I'm watching young Davis over here leading the inside sales team, kind of teaching me the ins and outs of the tent business. And it's, if you want to become great at what you do, I always say you should teach it. So why don't you walk us through that?
That's an aspiration for me. I would love to. And, here at special events, I've got Mike's son coming up with me. And,
Grady.
He's young and new to the industry, but not new to the industry. He's been around it. He's the and kind of helping him grow through the progressions and learn it at kind of an accelerated learning curve. I've got to give it to him. He's smart and he's strong and he's driven, and he absorbs information like a sponge. And I hope that what I'm giving him is things that have been passed down through Mike.
Yeah.
So, and I try to, every now and then we veer a little bit, but trying to, pass that knowledge through is a big part of what I do.
For sure. So since we're on the topic of MATRA, Matt, why don't you tell us how hard, one, you've been working on the educational part, two, what that looks like going forward, and how MATRA is so hands-on in terms of the application and the education that you receive when you come to one of our spring training events or even the show.
I'll go back to the very beginning of us kind of getting the certification rolling. Is that for me, I looked at other industries. Like I looked at your electricians. Nobody's going to let an electrician come in their house. It's not
certified.
A certified, bonded, trained electrician. You don't want a jackleg. Plumbers, same thing. And to me, we'd always intending kind of been look like the carny.
Yeah, 100%. The traveling circus.
And one notch away from a carny, and
carny
I
adjacent.
think that this certification training kind of elevates us into a professional, a professional career. Standardizing the way that we do things, what we call things. If we can move things in that direction and elevate the professionalism, it's one of those rising tide floats all boats.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was part two there?
And no, you get. And part two, like, what's the end goal for our education? Is it to attain a certification that's recognized by code officials? Is it what is our end goal with our educational seminars that we offer right now? And I mean, we're working in conjunction with ATA and doing theirs, and ARA now with their safe tenting. What separates us or makes MATRA stand out?
I can only speak on what we're doing. We try to really drive in on the hands-on.
Yep.
And teaching these courses, you're teaching guys like me.
Yeah.
Like, good luck sitting me down and getting me to go through a click through or something like that. I'm just not going to be into it. But when I can get in a classroom and we can discuss things and talk about things and, really get conversations going, I think that kind of helps the learning process. So that's kind of, maybe we are just a little bit classroom heavy, but I think that those conversations are the engagement. That's what gets people like me learning.
Yeah, and it gets them involved and bought in, the interaction, because, you get to see and hear other people's pain points, and then you get to work through the problems as a team. Even though you're not a team working under the same company together, the whole atmosphere just brings more and more people together.
That's it. Yeah. And applying it real world.
Yeah.
Those of us, all of us, hats off to all of the guys that are instructing these things, but they all have real world stories that, everybody, we all try to be relatable. And the main thing is safety centric.
Yep.
You'll hear guys pipe up in class. Well, I do it this way. And I said, okay, that might be okay, but this is how you should do it to be safe and consistent. We try to blend what a manufacturer wants to actual, what's safe and practical in the real world. And, I think that goes a long way with the guys.
Well, it sets a standard, like We're nothing without having standards, and if we don't have standards, then we can't hold ourselves accountable, right?
Yeah. Moving forward, where I see this going is, I hope that we can move this towards an accredited type certification.
Yep.
That's a heavy lift. There's lots of parts involved there. Both Brian Bolt and myself are involved in new technical standards where we're trying to work through what code officials are looking for on job sites and things like that. Something that can be used coast to coast, where maybe you have a little bit of pushback. You can pull out these standards and say, hey, this is how we're supposed to do it. Mm-hmm. We're trying to give tools to installers to be safe and practical. Everybody knows that sometimes code officials aren't the most practical people in the world.
Well, and like you said, you're working with Brian Bolt in conjunction for that. If a code official knows nothing about installing tents or what we do, but writes the standards for what we should adhere to, that makes no sense. We should be working in conjunction with them to say, this is the actual safe way to do it. These are the practices that need to be put in place. And then that creates a standard that we can actually attain, rather than creating a standard that we're trying to adhere by that makes it harder for us to do our job.
And to your point, I've got a friend, Warren Darby, with Rent Equip. God bless him. He calls me about once a week to chit chat and check on me.
He does the same thing to me, man. Just a call, just to talk. Love it.
His whole take with this is that, he's working, doing these job sites, and they want to know what qualifies him to set up this tent.
Yeah.
And now with this certification program, we're kind of giving him an arsenal that, he can pull from, that, hey, I've talked, we've been certified in ballasting and anchoring and X, Y, and Z. So, it helps them win these jobs.
I was about to say it sets your company apart from others that might not have those certifications. And without those certifications, it might be a requirement to get the job here soon.
So would you guys say it's fair to assume that codes officials have a tendency to live in theory and ideas rather than in actual practical application?
I think without guidance, I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Me coming from the construction world that I do, it's the codes officials, the engineers, and the architects. It's the ideas are grandiose and they sound great on paper, but it's like classroom with no laboratory application.
And it would make a job take 4 times as long.
It's paralysis by analysis and sales prevention. And especially some of our brothers and sisters on the West Coast, they seem to be dealing a little bit more with some of the code-heavy shifts in the industry than.
Well, I'm sure Kevin Vasquez pulls his hair out every night.
Yeah, I'm sure of that too, and I've seen a little bit of it over here. I had a locality want us to engineer for 117 mile an hour wind load.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, there's not a single component on this tent that can stand through 117. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, like, those standards are not attainable. What they're telling you at that point is we need to build a pole barn.
Right. Yeah. You need a brick building or something like that.
I mean, seriously,
this is not your solution if that's your.
Well, people forget at the end of the day, these are temporary structures. Structures.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
117 mile an hour wind.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's okay. Well, let's just go ahead and start excavation to build a building then, because temporary structures are not going to attain that.
Are we building like a rounded airplane hangar with multiple hip ends right now to mitigate wind?
My involvement in that project was, and this was an out of town guy coming in, and I was going to provide him ballasting. And he started hitting me with some of these ballasting numbers. And I said, well, show me what you're putting this ballast on.
Yeah.
And it was a 3/8 L bracket with maybe a 3/8 daggone grade 5 bolts putting it on. And I'm like,
well, your components there aren't going to hit the 117 you're looking for, buddy.
yeah. So, but it's stuff like that. That working through this, it ties it in. If certification helps steer the standards a little bit, along with what manufacturers want, and if you kind of blend that together, these things they can be workable and they can be realistic and reasonable and safe all at the same time.
So now that we're talking about safety and stuff like that, it's a great avenue into PPE. That's becoming a higher standard that I know on our side, when I go out to install a tent, I'm wearing a hard hat, I'm wearing steel toes, I'm wearing high vis and gloves, even though I hate working in gloves sometimes.
They make steel toe cowboy boots?
I got them in the truck, though. I got them in the truck. But how have you been able to implement that into your crews? Like, because I know, and just as well as I do, Matt, growing up, cutting our teeth, putting up tents, we'd be out there in Crocs, shorts, cut off T-shirts, sunglasses, no hard hats, no high vis. And I hate wearing a hard hat, I'll be honest. The cask one, since we've moved to that, is a whole lot more comfortable. But how do you prescribe that to your team and get them bought in?
The heavy lift there is changing the culture.
Yeah.
When we really didn't have a steel toe policy here till about maybe 10 years ago.
Right.
And I know that and I started wearing steel toe boots when I smashed my foot in the lift gate.
Well, that'll change your mind real quick.
Yeah. I was a duct tape your shoe together and roll kind of guy. But it's been just gradual changes to the culture, and it started with the safety toe shoe, and then moving on there, and we're site specific on our PPE. So we try not to be unreasonable and unbearable, but there are things that we just write them in as policy. Right. That's kind of what we do, and it's hard to get guys that have been doing this for a lifetime. I get guys that are roofers that come and work here that have never had to wear a T-shirt at work,
right?
And now I'm putting them in a vest and a hard hat and stuff like that, and it's just the way you got to do it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's. If it's your policy, that's what we're talking about, creating standards and changing culture. That's the avenue to do it.
Yeah. The other thing is it's part of, PPE is part of being a professional.
Yep.
The way that you're received by your clients and, officials sitting out there looking at you doing this work. When they see you, you're decked out, you're wearing a high vis vest, a hard hat. They kind of take you a little bit more serious than if you're just a Yahoo running around out there in a tank top.
Right. I mean, if I see two tent crews working, putting up a festival side by side, one of them has all those required PPE. The other one is, like you said, cut off T-shirts, shorts, flip flops. I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, I guarantee you the company that's taking pride in their work and their appearance and everything else like that, the end result for their stuff is going to be far greater than the end result from the half lackluster crew.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it trickles down through, and right into the pride that the guys feel. I mean, you look the look.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they start to act that way. But it does take time. It does take persistence and small little incremental changes to kind of ratchet it up. And then setting a good example through leadership.
Yeah, exactly. And even my first experience seeing like PPE at Rise was at a MATRA show, and the first one I ever went to, Brian was like, "Make sure you bring your hard hat, etc." And I was like, "This is kind of silly, do people really like wear this stuff when they're installing tents, etc.?" And then I get to MATRA and I see these big event companies and they're decked out, all matching with proper PPE, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's why." Like they have a standard and their culture is probably really high. So as a manufacturer, I need to also hold myself to that standard as well, if not higher.
Exactly. So, and then, something we teach about in the certification, that's kind of it's a tough concept, but it's like a hierarchy of control. And, PPE is your last line of defense.
100%.
There's things that, you can do as a company on up that are much more effective at protecting your guys, and training is part of that, implementing policies and things. It's kind of, it's all tied together, in, creating a safe and professional workplace.
Well, I mean, that's a good point too, because it's like, like you said, I'm glad you brought that up, that PPE is the last line of defense. Because if you're still handling the product and operating like, pardon my French, but like a jackass, it doesn't really matter that you're wearing PPE. People can still get hurt.
Just silly question, and this is across every single platform and construction industry as a whole. It's funny, the longer you work in the industry, the more proficient you become, the more likely you are to have a catastrophic mistake.
Yeah.
Because you take a guy like Warren Darby or an Ian or you or Matt, you've done this. It's the guy on the roof walking a 9-pitch without roof shoes, carrying shingles over his shoulders, eating a sandwich, because you've done it 1,000 times. It's almost like have you ever been driving someplace and you just turn your brain off and you realize you missed your exit and you're like, how did I drive 37 miles?
Yeah, it's just
that PPE is there for the PPE is there for the moments where you are not paying attention.
Correct.
Because everyone is like, oh, I've never had an accident on the job site. I'm like, guess what? Everyone who's ever had an accident at one point
said that
did not have an accident.
Yeah, exactly.
And it goes back to the beginning of the conversation where Matt told us, like, we were looked as carny adjacent. Bringing that to the forefront does all of a sudden command a little bit more respect and authority. Where if I see 15 guys in T-shirts with holes sitting up, taking down, I'm going to be less comfortable having them on my property.
Yeah.
Versus if people bring a unified front. And last question on that is, with the Safe Tenting Initiative, with standardizing everything, has that made it easier for you to promote and maybe maintain some employees, Matt?
I think yes. I think that when you take interest in your staff and you train them, you're kind of legitimizing their role at your company.
It's investing in your people.
You're being less reactive. Like what I'm getting at is if the three of us were just a 3 guy in a truck, and we've seen these companies all over the country, they buy a secondhand tent and they just want to make money. If there's no standard and people are screaming, they're yelling and just constantly figuring things out as opposed to being prepared, I would say that probably mitigates a little bit of stress on the frontline employees.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. I mean, when guys are expected to act a certain way and do things a certain way, it kind of it gives you a baseline for your leadership. So,
yeah.
Well,
Matt,
yeah.
How busy are you right now?
We're climbing the mountain. Is
Yeah.
what we're doing. We've got our first festival of the season under our belt and in our rearview mirror. We just stood up a 25-meter structure yesterday with some stage under it. So we're picking off some. We're kind of elephant hunting this month a little bit, and it really doesn't stop until late June. There's some interesting things happening in the U.S. with the 250th anniversary that I'm sure that people, at least in the original 13 colonies, are probably seeing. We're right here in Williamsburg, Yorktown, Jamestown, historic triangle area. So that is really feeding us right now.
That's good.
So,
what kind of tents do you think our forefathers put up when they claimed independence?
Probably epic.
Yeah, some kind of rope and pole with real canvas that was probably coated in wax to keep it waterproof.
Stitched with animal hair.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody tell George Washington that it needs to be wind rated for 117 miles an hour. He's be going with thee. Don't tread on us.
Don't tread on us.
We'll send them back to England. We fought wars for less than that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
One question, just where, and this is something I ask every one of our guests, just because everybody's regionally someplace different. trends, especially on the frame tents and the pole tents. What are you seeing people moving towards? What are you seeing people moving back towards? And how do you anticipate that change as a business owner? Specifically to maybe there's a small guy somewhere up there in the mid-Atlantic. Everything from valance to frame to size to mids to tops. Just kind of what are you seeing if there's any movement in any direction?
What I'm seeing, and we're kind of on the site solution side of things. So we don't really chase trends here, but we get a lot of movement in our sailcloth and in our clear. This time of year, I can't keep clear on the shelf. Mm-hmm. So, and then, your tried and true stuff, that's always moving. But what I'm seeing when I'm going around is people getting into powder coated frame and stuff like that. I mean, there's some white powder coated floating around. There's black powder coated, the wood grains, stuff like that. People are, I mean, even we own a little bit of wood grain stuff that's unique.
Matt, which company at ARA had that really? It was a translucent top with some sublimated wood poles. Who was that, Davis? Which company had that? It was an open end gable. Who made that? Who made that?
It was like a TopTec. I think it wasn't it? With the pretty lights ring.
Yeah, the little string lights underneath there. It had a sailcloth feel with the compatibility of frame hard. TopTec again.
What was that name again? TopTec?
Yeah, we're gonna drop an F word.
That was a good looking tent, and hey, exactly that. I mean, that's what
That seems to be the trend right now. I mean,
trendy. Yeah.
Prior to this year, I think we might have sold like one of them, and within like the past 4 months, we've had 5 or 6 black frames go out, and 3 or 4 of the wood grain frames go out. It's crazy.
They catch on once people see it moving, or their friend buys it, or competition buys it.
Yep.
It kind of blossoms out of it.
Well, I mean, and you can charge a higher premium for it, even though it's still a future track that's being put up, and it takes the same amount of time. Well, maybe a little bit more time, just because you're being a little bit more extra careful with the powder coat and sublimation. But in terms of the install process, you're not talking about a full day's worth. You're talking about maybe an hour more that it would take you to put up a normal future track, and you're getting $3.50, $4 a square foot, whereas you're normally getting for a normal future track $1 to $1.50, right? So exactly. I mean, it's just a higher premium product that you can charge more for and still have less labor.
It's also the only way you could bolster your product line without putting any added stress on your installers, because it's already a familiar product.
Correct.
But it's a whole secondary line of things that are. And you said Site Solutions, Matt. Shout out to Davis. When we started doing some really custom stuff with sublimation and powder coating, why don't you talk us what made you decide to create those very special protective bags? Oh. So that if people are spending a premium amount on poles, and this is 100% Davis, so
so we initially started with just duck cloth fabric bags that the pole slides all the way into to protect it.
Because if you tell kids to be gentle with it in a box truck, of course they're always going to be.
You can speak for this. At the end of the day, and this is your 7th tent you're taking down, those poles tend to fly into the back of the truck rather than placed into the back of the truck.
Oh, they're javelins at that point. yeah.
You're just hot, pissed off.
They're moving 117 miles an hour. That's...
yeah. You hadn't had a nice hot dinner in about 4 days, and So that's great that putting something together to protect things just a little bit more.
The pole toss is going to be a new event next year at MATRA.
Right.
64 meters from throwing a pole into the back of a box truck. I'm going to compete in that event.
There's our extra game right there, Matt, for the games next year. We're going to do a pole toss.
That's it. Oh.
But yeah, so I mean, and Jose's from Grand Events in Nashville, Tennessee, and he came up and he was like, it'd be a better idea if you made these bags 3-sided Velcro so that you can install it with the bag still on, and you don't have to take the bag off until you're done and ready. And I was like, that's a brilliant idea. I can't believe we didn't think of that. So we're changing that.
Yeah, Site Solutions, that goes into as well. I know,
and that's why I love talking to people like Matt. I mean, this might work better if you do it this way. Okay, well, that's a great idea. Let me go see if it would actually work better. I mean, we can't get better as a manufacturer if we don't have feedback from our customers, right? And you're the same way on your end, Matt. I mean, y'all can't get better as a company if y'all don't get feedback and reviews as well from your clients.
That's it. Clients for me, I think that right now that's probably my number one forward-facing job.
Yep.
Is engagement with the clients. I like keeping our key clients in my front pocket.
Right.
That way they're always there. You know, I've got their numbers in my cell phone. They've got my number. And when things go sideways, they do not hesitate to call me at 6 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and, you know, either express their pleasure or displeasure with what we're doing for them.
100%.
So,
but I want it all. Like, I want all the feedback because, you know, good feedback is not, it doesn't help me, honestly. I want the bad stuff too.
You got to know where your problems are, and good, honest customers. They are usually brutally honest.
I have a few that are just every time I see the name pop up, I'm like, oh no.
You want to spill some tea and drop some names right now?
I need to go outside to answer to this one probably.
Like, what did we do now?
Yeah, this is not good.
Well, we talk to Mac. We say, hey, you know, Matt was did everything work out well? And then when we call other people, like, did anything work out well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, Matt, we want to be respectful for your time, man. First off, I want to say thank you. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I look at you as a mentor for sure, especially when it comes to being on the board. You know, I wanted to get as involved in the industry and grow in the industry as much as I could. And it was like you just took me right up underneath your wing when it came to teaching the classes and getting me involved in teaching the classes with you and stuff like that. So I just want to say thank you for the mentorship. It means a lot to me. You've helped me grow a lot in this industry. And not only that, but when I took over Virginia, man, you were just right there to help me say, hey, you need to go see this person, or have you been to see this person? And I really appreciate that. So from our end, I look at Matt. I hold Matt in a very high regard.
And I just want to thank Matt for all the pre-orders on the Nantucket, the sailcloth made by the good people at TopTec. How many was that? 5 or 6 that you pre-ordered?
Yeah. It was like 15.
We'll talk.
Matt, I forgot to send you that, dude. My bad. I just pushed it through.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on here. You know, you've had some really big names, some guys that I've looked up to, and you know, your Brian Bolts and your Brian Richardson helped elevate, especially in tent training and your MATRAs and your ATAs and your ARAs and stuff like that. So, you know, I just want to be around for another 20 years to kind of keep things going and build off of what they've done.
I mean, Brian Bolt, he's probably the best mentor I could have had in terms of showing me the ropes and here's what you need to be involved with. These are the key people you need to know. They need to know who you are. They need to know your goals, your aspirations. So Brian, like you said, Brian still is a huge mentor to me. Even when I get like on a real good stuck, I'm like, I don't want to bother him. I want to handle it on my own, but I might have to call him just to get his advice on this.
So sometimes a Titan can stand at 5'6", Brian Bolt.
That's it. You always got to have somebody that you can call on that you can trust, and you know that'll help you through something. And I think that's what it's all about with these organizations.
And Matt, in closing this, I wanted to give you the opportunity, maybe if Mike's son or anybody who knew the Titan in the industry, if you just want to kind of say a couple of words, and at the end we'll say in memory of, like, why don't you tell everybody this opportunity to remember Mike Fitzwater and put a smile on the faces of a couple of people who remember him fondly.
Hey, I wouldn't be here with Mike, and I know that there's a lot of people that he meant a lot to. I just want to keep what he started rolling. Yep. So, and I'm lucky. I got to give a shout out to Grady, Mike's son. I'm lucky to have him. I wouldn't rather be doing this with anybody else. So.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, we appreciate everything you do for this industry, and we appreciate you as a customer as well. We don't want to bypass that. You have always ordered our epics, and we appreciate it for sure.
Absolutely. That tent's a workhorse.
It is, man.
That thing's a beast.
As you look to the future, just remember it's the future track, Matt. We have great expectations. It was a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better today, Matt the Hammersmith, MATRA, 17-time gold medalist, overall good guy in the industry.
He drives a pretty sick truck.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, man.
Matt, appreciate it. I'll holler at you, boss.
Cool. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, guys.
07, salute.
And that was Matt Smith, everybody.
That
was a dang good podcast, I feel like.
Well, I mean, you guys are. There's a genuine friendship there. Pretty much everyone we've had on so far, you've been connected with. So, again, his name is, because he wants to say it. You are
Davis West,
and I'm Ray. On behalf of both of us here on episode 5, season 2 of Pitchin Tents. Hopefully, you learned a little bit. Hopefully, you were entertained a little bit, and more than anything, let's keep the industry friendly. Let's keep it familial, and we'll see you next time.
Get involved in MATRA.
Get involved. Call Davis. Call Matt Smith. And if you're on the fence, MATRA this year is going to be in Atlantic City.
Yep.
Open up the check. It's a downtime anyway. You got nothing else to lose. And even if you don't wind up losing too much, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I wouldn't.
You gain so much more going than it costs.
I mean, John Siniglio, our owner, hopefully doesn't hear this, but it's a party. We got paid to go and hang out for 3.5 days and have.
It is a party.
Yeah, once when the sun goes down,
it's tent guy party land.
That's it's nothing but a bunch of 45 middle-aged people turning up like it's 1999, and it's the nights are lively, and then the morning is filled with ibuprofen and liquid IV hydration. So
for sure,
if you're on the fence, please go to MATRA. Don't forget to hit subscribe for all future notifications for Davis and I. On behalf of Pitchin Tents, we're out.
Later, taters.